Today, we are diving deep into one of the most mind-blowing stories in the history of life. And get this, it's not a story about combat and competition. It's a story about cooperation, an absolutely radical partnership that literally built the foundation for every complex creature on Earth. Yeah, that includes you.
So let me just ask you, what are you really made of? I mean, when you get right down to it. The answer, of course, is cells, trillions and trillions of them. But these aren't just, simple blobs. They are tiny, incredibly sophisticated biological machines. And the story of how they even came to exist, well, it's a true evolutionary epic.
To really get this story, you first have to know that life basically comes in two different models. On one hand, you've got the prokaryotic cells. Think of them like a simple, efficient studio apartment. Everything's in one room, it gets the job done. Then you've got eukaryotic cells. These are like a massive, sprawling, bustling city, full of specialized apartments and power grids. All bacteria are those simple studios, while all complex life, we're talking plants, fungi, and us animals, we're all made of cities.
Okay, so let's properly break down these two fundamental blueprints for life, because understanding the difference between that little studio apartment and the massive city is absolutely key to grasping one of the most important ideas in all of biology. This slide really just lays out all the upgrades. So first, look at the nucleus. Eukaryotes, the city cells, have a secure command center, a nucleus, to protect their DNA. Prokaryotes, they just let their DNA float around in the main room. Then you have the organelles. Eukaryotic cells are packed with these little organs doing specific jobs. Prokaryotes are way more minimalist. And finally, the DNA itself. For prokaryotes, it's just a simple circular loop, but for eukaryotes, it's these complex, linear strands all neatly bundled up into chromosomes. It's a whole other level of organization.
So, you have to ask yourself, how in the world did life get from point A to point B? I mean, this jump from the simple prokaryote to the complex eukaryote is a massive leap. For 2 billion years, life was only simple cells. That's it. Then, almost out of nowhere, these complex cellular cities appear. It's one of the biggest and most exciting puzzles in the entire story of evolution.
Which brings us right to the heart of it, the big question for this whole explainer. How did life pull off this unbelievable upgrade? How did it go from a tiny studio apartment to a metropolis?
And the answer is just so cool, because it's not what you'd expect. This wasn't a story of slow, gradual improvements over millions of years. Nope. This wasn't a renovation project. It was a radical, revolutionary merger. One cell literally moved into another and changed the future of the planet forever.
So let's do it. Let's go back in time, way back, over 1.6 billion years ago, to witness a single event that completely redefined what life was capable of. This is the story of an ancient, radical partnership.
Here's how we think it went down. You have this ancient, larger prokaryotic cell, let's call it the host. It comes across a smaller bacterium that was just amazing at generating energy, so the host cell swallows it. But, and this is the critical moment, instead of digesting it for a quick snack, something else happened. The smaller cell wasn't destroyed. It took up residence, and they formed a partnership that benefited them both.
Essentially, that little bacterium became a permanent live-in power plant. It started churning out enormous amounts of energy for its host, and in return, it got a safe place to live and a steady supply of food. Today, we call that little power plant the mitochondrion, and every single one of your cells has hundreds, sometimes thousands, of them working right now.
And of course, this incredible idea has a name. It's called symbiogenesis, or you might know it as the endosymbiotic theory. It is the leading scientific explanation for how our complex eukaryotic cells ever came to be, not through slow mutation, but through a single, transformative, symbiotic merger.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. A cell eating another cell and turning it into a power plant? That sounds like something out of science fiction. But here's the thing. It is not just some wild story. The evidence for it is overwhelming, and the clues are literally inside your own cells as we speak.
So how on earth could we possibly know what happened so long ago? Well, it's because mitochondria never forgot where they came from. They left behind a perfect trail of breadcrumbs, biological fingerprints that point directly back to their ancient bacterial ancestors.
Okay, check out this table. It basically lays out the case file, and it is stunning. Let's start with DNA. Mitochondria have their own separate DNA, and guess what? It's a single circular molecule, just like a bacterium's. Next up, ribosomes, the little factories that build proteins. Both mitochondria and bacteria used a smaller 70S type, while the rest of the host cell used a totally different, larger kind. And get this, look at how they reproduce. By just splitting in two, a process called binary fission, exactly how bacteria multiply. Even the tiny molecular building block they use to start making a protein is the same. The resemblance is it's uncanny. It's undeniable.
And if you're still not convinced, here are the absolute smoking guns. First, mitochondria have two membranes. The inner one looks and acts just like a bacterial membrane, right down to a special fat called cardiolipin. But the outer membrane, it looks just like the host cell's membrane. It's literally the leftover wrapper from when it was first swallowed. They even share unique proteins called porins with bacteria. It's a perfect forensic match, frozen in time for over 1.5 billion years.
The scientist who fought for decades to get this theory accepted, the brilliant Lynn Margulis, she put it perfectly. Life did not take over the globe by combat, but by networking. This wasn't survival of the fittest in a battle to the death. It was survival of the best collaborators.
So, what was the real upshot of this merger? What did it all lead to? Well, this wasn't just a cellular upgrade. It changed the entire game. It was like life installed a brand new, unbelievably powerful operating system.
You see, with these new internal power plants, cells suddenly had an insane amount of energy. They were no longer just surviving, they had a huge energy surplus. And that extra energy was the key that unlocked the potential for something completely new and radical: large, complex, multicellular life.
All of a sudden, cells could afford to get bigger. They could specialize, take on different jobs. They could team up to form tissues and organs and eventually entire complex organisms. This one single event, this ancient partnership, directly paved the way for the evolution of fungi, plants, and every animal on this planet. Without it, none of us would be here, period.
So when you look around, remember this. You, me, the dog sleeping on the floor, the trees outside your window. Every single complex creature you have ever seen owes its very existence to that one ancient act of cooperation. A partnership that transformed a simple cell into a living city of wonders.
And that just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If the single greatest, most successful leap forward in the 4 billion year history of life wasn't born from conflict, but from a partnership, a merger, a network, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What else could cooperation achieve?